sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
The number you have dialed has been changed. The new number is... Please note, the new number is...
Oh, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Larry. I'm just testing to see how hot it was. Welcome to Scribbler, a portal to fiction. And, I have my notes. This is going out to my wife's friends. They call themselves the Fab Five. There's four of them, and one with her, there's five. And that would be Teresa, Patty, Lorna, and Irene. And here we go. Box is empty. Well, I was supposed to do that a lot easier or better or whatever like that. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A ridiculous amount of money to pay. You would never believe how much I had to pay for this. Garbage. Absolute garbage. It costs like $4.98 to go 20 minutes across the line. Or to go down to the line, it takes 20 minutes. And it costs $4.98. And having them sent up here costs more like $17 each. Ridiculous. Totally. Whatever. It's just the way it is. So obviously I need to have a lot more subscribers paying so that I can afford to give everybody a copy of the little book. And it's it is 161 pages, but that's because it's a novella. It's not a novel, but it's like a full deck. It's a full deck. Okay, so now I'm going to be imbibing in my coffee. I'm going to be reading the Bashful Courtesan, which is actually a prequel to this one. Oh, no, I'm not reading the Bashful Courtesan. I'm reading Cinderella and Her Sisters. My apologies. I really screwed that up, didn't I? Yes, I'm here to read Cinderella and Her Sisters, which is actually a prequel to this one. There, I did that much better. There's no second takes on this. You know that, right? I told you. It's like it's one go. If somebody comes in, I got to start all over again. So we won't go there. So let me see. I've written a couple of notes. One today, one I sent to my readers, and that was the political one. And we're not getting into politics, but like every once in a while, I lose it. You know, like snap. I just I can't handle the moron down there. The MAGA morons, and the felon just drive us crazy. 90% of the population is saying, no, we don't want to be a state. And 10%, we don't know who those are. It's like, what is the matter with them? It's like totally ridiculous. They want to give up what? Our medical, our education. It's like, bow down to America. It's like, I don't think so. I'm not getting political. Don't let me say that. But don't mistake polite for being nice. Canadians are not nice. Read up what they did in the wars. Holy smokes. No prisoners. Literally. No prisoners. They would shoot their prisoners because they would have to share their food. So they're like, no, we're not sharing their food. Boom, you're done. Pretty bad. Okay. Anyways. Oh, damn, that's a good coffee. Yeah, we were bad boy and girl last night. We got a little carried away, and we stayed up till 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and she slept till 12:30 in the afternoon. I was up at 8. Like, go figure. And in fact, I don't even think I slept. I just couldn't. Well, we're not going to go there either because like I said, we were bad boy and girl, so we did things that we shouldn't have, and that's what we do. But hey, it's not like we used to do it, right? It was only a day or two. It was her birthday on Thursday, and so then we celebrated it on Friday too. And then, she's got the day off, so what the heck? Why not? And so, what else? Oh yeah, I'm going to read. I'm going to read right now. I'm going to start. Okay, here we go. Milan Novak arrives at the hospital at the tail end of a long caravan of wounded soldiers returning home from the Russian front. As an officer, he's sitting on the tailgate of a truck watching the beleaguered line. They're a ruinous, weary, self-defeated army, and if a man didn't know them as the victors, he might think they'd been beaten to a hasty retreat in front of a swarm of Don Cossacks like Napoleon's Grand Army fleeing Moscow. They came on in old weather-worn trucks that are covered in dirt and dried, caked-on mud so thick it has to be kicked at repeatedly to break it. The wounded lay on empty ammunition carts and supply wagons, while those still able to stagger in on foot. It's an endless line that snakes along the road, losing little pieces of itself along the way like a snake peeling its skin, as men leave to rejoin their families, deserters and stragglers alike, as the 100,000 of them dwindle down to thousands and finally hundreds. They leave the roads behind them covered with the detritus of a dying army, leaving more dead men behind than they can count. Soldiers who sit to rest for a moment are unable to continue because of the wounds that are infected and festering. Lone pack animals worn down by the harsh conditions die on the side of the road. Broken down vehicles die from a lack of fuel or axles that snap like horses' legs in the large ruts and potholes in the muddy countryside, abandoned and left to die of exposure simply because there's no one left who knows how to fix them. There are cannons and guns and spent ammunition belts lying along the sides of the roads they've traveled along. They all have the same bewildered look about them, the look of a man standing at the edge of the world and staring down into the blackness of the abyss, like a man standing on the brink of forever, a man defying death but unable to walk away from it in one piece, each man taking something back with him that will haunt him in his dreams as he sleeps and plague his every waking moment. They have missing arms and legs, and some have faces that are blown clean off and left with nothing but hideous scars in their place. Those men who are blind hold onto the shoulder of the man beside him or the man in front of him, while others stand mute, having been deafened by the endless roar of the big guns. As they approach their homes and near their final destinations, their only reason for having endured the endless miles of hell, they're met by another adversary, this one that is silent and mysterious, worse than the gas or the shells or even the Cossacks. It doesn't come from the mad-made weapons or the botched plans of generals in smoke-filled back rooms in London and Paris, but from the hand of God. George takes to hunting with the same cautious approach he takes with everything else he does. He carries the rifle on his left shoulder, the stump of his arm wrapped in the strap. He carries a compass on a string around his neck and a near-empty backpack. He has everything he needs, a large knife, which he usually wears tucked in his right boot, extra rounds of ammunition, dry clothes, a small first aid kit, and enough food and water to last him the day, and 4 cigarettes. He leaves early, with the sun a pale disk behind vaporous clouds and the cold air biting into him, urging him to walk faster. The grass is wet and the dewdrops sparkle like tiny diamonds at the ends of the tree branches. The air smells sweet, alive with the sound of birds. His breath smokes around them while his shadow melts through the trees, and he looks at the ground for any sign of small game. He tells himself to check the traps first, but lately they've been empty. His searching of late takes him miles out of the way. One day he has to go north, and the next day he goes south, and though he always tries to keep the road in view, he never uses it. He sees soldiers once in a while, long lines of broken men and shattered lives, and when he does, he dissolves into the trees, becoming one of the shadows. He knows they pose no danger to him as long as they don't see him, but he's not taking any chances. He has no way of knowing if they're a part of the army or an army of deserters to listen to Colette. He tells himself it's only a matter of time before one of the little groups stumbles across the villa, and when that happens, he tells himself he'll be ready. He's seen enough evidence over the months to know they're around. Burned-out farmsteads and butchered livestock, dead farmers, their wives raped, and he thinks about what happened to Anastasia, telling himself he won't let that happen again. He sees a rabbit drops to a knee and hoists the gun up, pulling the bolt back and taking aim in one fluid motion. It's something he's been practicing. A one-armed man with a rifle is an easy target. He keeps to the high ground even though the going is harder and he sometimes loses sight of the road. But he knows that that's where the game is. He sees another rabbit and birds, a duck and a goose, but he can't get a clear shot at them. He's not a man to waste a shot on something he knows he's not sure of. He knows it's not a sure thing. It helps to be practical. He sees a small deer and wild pigs but lets them go because the idea of skinning, gutting, and cutting up a carcass that large and packing it back to the village seems like a daunting task for any man, let alone a one-armed man. And then he steps over a branch or a rotten tree trunk and a sharp pain stabs him in the back, reminding him to be more cautious. He eats and drinks sparingly, eating his first sandwiches at 10 o'clock, washing them down with a cup of water and eating an apple after. He pulls the cigarette out of the bag and straightens it, lighting it with a match. The countryside seems to open up in front of him. The tree line goes up higher and he finds himself looking down on a small valley where a stream sputters through the rocks and waterfalls roar in the distance. He's been up this way before a number of times and smiles as he smells smoke coming from the valley. The smoke isn't as heavy as it has been, but it's still there. He keeps searching the skyline for a hint of the smoke, anything to tell him he's not imagining it, thinking if there's another hunter in the area, he might be mistaken for an animal and shot. He sees it in the distance. He's amazed at how he's never seen it before, but there it is. A small cabin built into the side of a hill, shaped into it naturally, beside the stream carving its length through the side of the hill. A rolled-up piece of sod covers the door, and he can see how when it's down, it's impossible to see the entranceway. He can see it now, though, because it's torn up and thrown to the side. The door is wide open. There's a chicken scratching in front of the doorway, and he sees a dead dog laying off to the side. He makes his way down the hill, circling the small hut and coming up on it from the south. He looks at the dog and shoulders his rifle, holding it between his knees as he pulls the bolt back. He reaches down to touch the knife in his boot, even though he can feel it there, and creeps along the side of the hut, pausing. He can hear the voices inside, laughter, crying and screaming, and he feels his heart quicken. He takes a deep breath, stepping in through the door and taking in the scene with a single glance. 2 soldiers are holding an older woman down on a small table. Her clothes have been ripped from her, and she's almost naked, screaming and thrashing about wildly. The first man is standing between her open thighs, his pants around his ankles, the old greatcoat he's wearing flapping, and his arms wrapped around her legs. He's pushing himself into her while the second man is holding her arms stretched over her head. He's laughing at her, taunting her, as the first man pistons himself into her. She sees George at the same instant the man holding her spindly arms does, and her eyes grow wide in disbelief. George doesn't know if it's horror he sees in her eyes, perhaps she's thinking he's yet another one of her unknown rapists, or if it's relief in knowing her prayers have been answered. The man holding her hands lets her go and reaches for the rifle leaning against the mud wall. George fires. The other man turns around, the roar of the rifle deafening within the small confines of the hovel. The old woman reaches up with her hands and claws at the man's face, her nails raking 3 long lines of blood. George turns to the man and pulls back the bolt of the rifle without a second thought, firing again. There's another explosion, and the man falls to the dirt floor, agonizing as he dies, gasping blood. George pulls the bolt back one more time, then slings the rifle down and places it beside the door. The old woman sits up, trying to cover her nakedness, looking at the man on the floor, and spits at him. She starts kicking at him in frustration with thrashing thrusts of her tiny feet. She bends down to pick up her clothes, but falls to the floor, clutching her ripped clothing to her. She scrambles away from the first dead man, seeing the hole in his head, the blood, the horror, and looks at the other man at the foot of the table, gurgling blood and trying to pull his pants up. She starts to panic. Her eyes grow large. Her hands start shaking as she begins scratching at her face. The man's eyes open with a flutter. The dim look of death waits in them, hovering in the distance. He coughs up blood. George bends down to help her up, but she shrugs him off quickly, angrily, her tears coming harder as she fights off his touch, her breath coming out in shortened gasps. George bends down and grabs her by the arm. He drags her out of the hovel, away from the bodies, and she fights him every inch of the way as he scrambles to take off his backpack. He takes off his coat, covering her with it, and she stops to look at him. He goes back into the hovel and sees a wooden bucket. He grabs his rifle, puts the rope handle over the barrel, and goes back outside. He knows he can't do much for her, but he can take some of the dirt and pain away. He puts the rifle down and walks to the small stream with the bucket. She sits and screams, her head in her hands. As George stands at the stream, there's a movement out of the corner of his eye. He sees the old woman scurry towards his rifle. She presses the rifle to her chin and pulls the trigger. He watches the birds in the trees around the valley take flight, screaming as the echo of the shot rings out. She's come up with her own idea of what I can do for her, George thinks as he turns away from the gruesome sight. He buries her near the stream and pulls the two men outside, leaving their bodies exposed downstream. He re-enters the hovel and looks at the stark surroundings. He sees 2 goats and a cow in the darkness, 3 chickens scratching at the mud floor, as the last withering embers of the fire choke out a thin blue haze of smoke. He finds an old sack and takes everything of value he can. Salt, sugar, eggs, dried pork and mutton, yeast, flour, butter, and he finds a second bag full of feed. When he's done, he ties the 2 bags together and places them over the cow's neck so they can lie on either side of the beast. He finds more sacks and kicks the door closed, waiting for his eyes to adjust to the dull blackness. He picks the 2 chickens up and ties them in the sacks. He kills the other one with a quick twist of its neck and hangs it behind the food sacks. He ties a line to the goats and secures them to the cow before he closes the door, rolls down the sod flap, and starts the long walk home. All right, there we go. I think I made a boo-boo there, but I'll fix that and it'll be read out, and hopefully nobody will notice it. But I'll fix it, don't worry, because I noticed it. In fact, I'm going to highlight it right now so I don't forget, because that's not possible. There we go. Okay, so we're almost finished this. Let me see. I've got just a couple of little sections left. Maybe 2 or 3 readings. Wow. There's a lot of words here. There's the 36,000. 36,000 words. That's not too bad. It's not too bad. Kind of like the average story, isn't it? Anyways, I gotta drink my coffee. Gotta keep myself awake, you know. So I'm. I've been trying to get to 1,000. I only needed 145 subscribers at the beginning of the year. In January the 1st, I was like 860 or whatever. So I only needed like 140 or whatever. 140, 145 or whatever. And I did pretty good. I mean, like in the first 20 days, I got up to 900, and I thought like, oh wow, I only have to get 75 a month, kind of, basically. And I'm stuck at 230. I was at 236 this morning. I came upstairs to check it, not to really check it, but because I was gonna go and start this thing, and I've already lost another one. I've been as high as 240. I mean, 940, and then lost 5, 6. Like, I'm not gonna make it. I might make it by, I would say, maybe June. I'm going for June. Yeah, what is this? This is March. Well, it's the Ides of March, not just March. Yeah, so I figure March, April, May, June, 3 months. 3 months to get 70, 60. Yeah. I mean, there were days when I was getting 5, 6, 7 at a time, And then 2-3 days would go and I wouldn't get one, and then one day would come and I would get one. And then I would lose 2, and then I would gain 3. See? Go up and down and up and down like a yo-yo. Ah, unbelievable. Oh well. So that's all we have today. This is Saturday afternoon. Well, it's 5:27. This is the latest I've ever done it, but like it's birthday week. What can we do, right? What can we do? So we managed it. Excuse me. We managed it and we got it. So now I got to make the movie and fit it all together and do all of that stuff. And I've got to go on Tuesday, drop off one of the books to Teresa, and drop off one of the books to Patty on the way home from Teresa's. And I want to meet Murray for dim sum. I can give him the book to give to Lorna. Lorna can't have dim sum. Well, she can, but she won't. There's seafood allergies or something. I keep getting told that. Yeah, so, Murray, dim sum, give me a call. Or DM or whatever you call that thing. And then Irene, wherever she is, she gets her copy and everybody's happy. I give my wife a copy, but no pictures. Anyways, here we go. Ciao for now and arrivederci. I will see you next week at the same bat time and the same bat channel. Catch you later.